Hi, and welcome back. My name is Deneen. You can call me D. I'm an astrologer and I teach people the psychology behind marketing. And today we're going to be hopping into Mars in Gemini. So Mars in Gemini is very much about, a person who likes to communicate, all right? But also a person who likes to move around, all right? So this person is going to be a person who is very much into socializing, all right? They want to get around, move around, and they probably do have a lot of things in the day that requires movement from them, communication from them, okay? Now, if you want to look deeper into Mars and Gemini, look where Mercury is and see more about what's moving, okay? All right, or where that communication is being focused. Now, Mars in Gemini, this is communication, but this is also how Mercury is dealing with how communication is dispersed, right? So when you have Mercury in Gemini, when you have Mars in Gemini, okay, this person is big on communication, and a lot of this doesn't have to just do, okay, with outright communication that you do with talking. This can also be communication that is done with the body, okay? So Mars in Gemini, all right, depending on where everything is in your chart, does not just mean just communication to communicate, okay, or just conversations. A person can communicate or make communications with their body, okay? Different ways of communicating, okay? Art, okay? Things of that nature. Now, why do I bring this up? Because we have say for example, we have the same placement, but we have a square, okay, with something like Pisces, and Pisces is where Jupiter lies, okay? Okay, we're using that again, right? So this person's morals and ethics can very much be dealing with and go towards a lot of artistic endeavors, things that involve imagery, okay? Imagery that is expressions of the soul, okay? And for them, if Mars has connections to Jupiter like a square, okay, that action or that communication going towards this imagery or images that they create, okay? And using this imagery to communicate a message or communicate in some way, shape, or form, okay? And if you look at Mercury, all right, because Jupiter and Mercury both deal with communication, all right, and on a bigger scale of how we communicate. Mercury, yes, how things are distributed, okay, how the communication is distributed. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily translate well all the time, okay, depending on where Mercury is and the tools that it has. But like I said, with Mars being connected to Jupiter, look still where Mercury is, all right? So you can even have a bigger picture on that, all right, if that person has that aspect in their chart. But that is by square, right? So those are both mutable signs. Having this communication in the way this is being communicated, it can change up, it can switch, and how much of that energy is going towards that can switch, right? Because yeah, you make paintings, you make these things, we communicate, right? But we don't communicate all the time. So it can be one modality of imagery and then go into a different modality of imagery or artistry, okay, or music, right? Because Jupiter and Pisces does deal with a lot of music, okay? I find often a lot of times with them. Yes, all right? But Mars being in Gemini is communication, and that's not always just verbal communication, but communication, all right? So look deeper into your chart than just that one placement, okay? Look at the aspects, all right? But Mars in Gemini, this communication, a lot of energy is being used towards it. So you want to see if this person has that amount of energy to exert towards it, okay? So Mercury is part of the inner planets, all right? And Mercury's cycles, okay, are different from the outer planet cycles, okay? And having an inner planet like Mars be connected to another inner planet you want to see how that energy is balancing out within a person. Because a person could experience a large amount of communication, or a person can be experiencing large amounts of movement that they do on a day-to-day basis, and that can overwhelm the body if they don't have, okay, it could be by transit, a mix of things happening by transit that can overwhelm the person or overwhelm their system, nerves, okay? And this can happen from time to time, all right? That doesn't mean that it's something that's going to be reoccurring or anything like that, all right? But with a mix and having the right mix, there's things that can happen, all right? Mars in Gemini, with this communication, you always want to look in a person's chart if they have this, and anything, okay, that has connections to Mars, how that energy is being used, because you want that energy and the use of that energy to be balanced. Because sometimes people do have a lot of energy for things, but that can also lead to the other half, which is burnout, okay? Now, this, of course, depends on how the person is by design in their natal chart, because nothing is promised unless it's promised in the natal chart, okay? So when the transits and stuff happen, yeah, there is potentiality. However, if the natal chart says this and it's fixed in there for it to happen like this, then it will happen, all right? But okay, I just want to bring that up and get into that, because that's something when it comes to Mars and how Mars energy is being used. And when we have signs like that, mutable energy, adaptability, a lot of adaptability to what they're doing, a lot of adaptability to how it is that they go about things, how it is that they can set up their day, all right, who it is that they're communicating with. Those are changeable things, okay? And you want to make sure this person has the energy to do that. So if they are coming to you or you are looking at your own chart, okay, and you see something is happening by transit and you're a little bit thrown off, or your nerves are being overwhelmed, okay, you should take time out to yourself to recuperate, okay? Because when you have energy that's adaptable, energy that's moving, okay, and you have something like an inner planet, two inner planets connected, that can create a situation where the energy is being used, okay? And there's nothing wrong with the energy being used as long as the person and how the rest of the chart is set up, it's room there for that to happen. And if there isn't, it's important to talk about balance and creating that balance. And I'm bringing this up to you guys just in case you ever go through anything like that, okay? I don't have this placement, thank freaking goodness. I don't have this placement. There's nothing wrong with the placement at all, okay? All right, there's nothing wrong with any placements. And anybody who tells you that doesn't know what they're talking about, all right? So I just wanted to make that clear. There are certain things that do manifest and are fixed to manifest or fated to manifest with people, but there are also times when transits and things are happening, and you do want to be more careful if it's promised in the chart for something to happen, and just be a little bit more precautious with taking action or being preventative at times, okay? This is not for you to stop your life or stop what you're doing or change up how you do things. I don't believe in things like that, okay? I'm gonna live how I want to live, all right? And when I'm looking for how a person is using their energy, we just want to make sure that that is happening, that there is communication there, all right? So going into Mars in Gemini, who you communicate with, all right? So who you're entertaining, who you're communicating with, and the places that you're frequenting, okay? Because we have to look at Mercury and where Mercury is placed, all right? To see other things about that energy and how it can be impacted. For example, you can have a Mars in Gemini, but your Mercury can be in Cancer, and you can have your moon. You can have your moon in the first house, or you can be Cancer first house, right? So this can translate as into, yes, you communicate with a lot of people. Yes, you take a lot of action, you move around, right? But also, too, you're feeling a lot of your environment. And so sometimes how you're feeling or things that are happening. Also, you have to look at the moon phase, but what's happening and things that are happening, how it is, the people that are around you, how it is that they're feeling, because those might not always be your feelings, okay? So these are important things, because if you have that moon in the first house, if you have Mercury in Cancer and your Cancer in the first house, okay, you can feel other things that are happening around you and the emotional undercurrents of things, okay? And sometimes that can disturb you, and you can think that's your own, but that's not what's going on, okay? So this is important to talk about and discuss. And if you have this in your chart and you've experienced any of this, okay, like if you've communicated or you've been in an environment, communicated with people and you felt one way and that impacted your energy, okay, there in that environment, the communication or lack thereof, okay, you need to be in places and spaces where it's open for you to communicate, socialize, and you're able to move around. Having movement is very important to you. Being able to adapt, okay, and being able to change up how it is that you're utilizing your energy, because you might not be able to always, okay, or might not have the bandwidth to always utilize your energy and just freaking communicating, or that one modality of communicating. And you might go towards a different way of using that energy, such as moving your body around, moving yourself around, okay? Changing up who you're communicating with and what specific conversations you're entertaining. Okay? But Mars in Gemini, I just wanted to speak about that for you guys, all right, and get into that with you guys. If this helped you, you like this, it resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button down below. And if you don't ever want to miss out on any of our astrology or psychology videos, okay, be forgetting to say that sometimes, okay, our astrology or psychology videos, go ahead and hit the like button and hit subscribe, all right, so you're notified. Now,
shop closed. I'm so frigid it got cold. They won't let in when my stock rose. But I'm taking notes, let me jot those. Fact that they see me blazing, but still know that they can't touch me. I feel like a hot stove.